Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
That's right, folks. The debate show is back here on Saturday as we take a break from the memory show. Of course, we'll be debating some of the older topics here and there, so you'll get your taste of history too. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. Jack, you know, there's a lot of things going on in football, and one of the things is the Baltimore Ravens again get knocked out of the playoffs, no chance for a Super Bowl. And with that, I was wondering, who do you think is the most popular Baltimore Raven of all time?
Well, you know, it would have to be, I think, Ray Lewis, okay, because he had such a big presence. And when you look at the most popular Raven of all time, you look to see who won a Super Bowl. You look to see a Super Bowl winning team, and you could look at the current Raven team, and you could say, you know, Lamar Jackson's pretty popular. He's won a couple of MVPs. He might win another one this year. It hasn't been announced yet. I don't think he will. I think it'll go to Josh Allen. But some people think Lamar Jackson has a shot at winning it. And imagine he won his third MVP award. That's legendary, Mac. I mean, yeah. 2 MVPs is high-profile stuff as is. So Lamar Jackson is a very popular Raven, but he's got to win that Super Bowl at some point. Ray Lewis was the emotional leader of those Raven teams. People would rally around Ray Lewis, and he would have to be the most popular Raven of all time. We're not talking about the Baltimore Colts. We're not going back in the day. We're talking about the Baltimore Ravens when they came into existence, moving from Cleveland to this time. Yeah, it would have to be Ray Lewis.
I mean, that's a great point. I didn't think about that because the Baltimore Colts, of course, you'd have to take in consideration Johnny Unitas, right? Ray Lewis is a very popular Raven. But like everything else, good morning, Richard. Glad to have you with us. But like everything else, as things get older, or players get older and the history gets older, we start forgetting about him, right? We forget how great Wilt Chamberlain really was until somebody ties or breaks his record. We forget how great Otto Graham was. We forget how great some of the quarterbacks and running backs and that were. I mean, we had some young kid on the show one time, didn't even know who Jimmy Brown was. Now that's unacceptable for a sports podcaster, but still, I mean, I know he could have named today's running backs, no problem at all. And I think it starts as things, get older, the times change. Larry Bird was great. Dr. J was great. All of a sudden, we start talking more about, Jason Tatum, and we start talking about Jaylen Brown more. And I think because of that, I think right now, I think that Jackson is the most popular Raven of all time. I mean, as you said, 2 MVPs. He's probably going to get his 3rd. Exciting quarterback, runs with the ball, hasn't got there yet, and that may add to his popularity, right? I mean, it's like, how come he can't get there? So maybe that makes him popular too. So, Jack, like any other situation, any other player that gets older and we don't see him as much, the newer player takes over. So I would say at this point in time, I would think that Jackson is the most popular.
Yeah, it's like I was going to say, it's debatable. That's why we're here. It's a debate show,
Yes.
but it's a little bit of a different era. Once again, the Ravens did win a Super Bowl with Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis, defensive player, Lamar Jackson, offensive player, different positions, different responsibilities. Lamar Jackson, I think, has been a good leader with the Ravens. Not a great leader, but a good leader. But Ray Lewis was one of the greatest leaders of all time, okay, who people would rally around. And I remember, the Raven head coach at the time, he was talking about the young players, and they better do this or that because they're not going to want to have to answer to Ray Lewis if they don't. So he took pressure off the coaches. The coaches wouldn't have to worry about disciplining guys as much because Ray Lewis and a couple of the other leaders on the Ravens, they took charge of that. And if you're a coach, that's what you want. You want the locker room to police itself, the right guys there to keep the others in line. You had that with certain great teams. You had that with your New York Giant teams, on the Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells was given this image of being a tough leader with disciplined guys. Would actually be the players, Harry Carson, LT. They would put the other guys in line who might not be doing the right thing. So they would keep control of that locker room under the head coach's supervision, under Parcells' supervision. But Parcells knew he had the right leaders, and Ray Lewis was the ultimate leader on the Ravens. And there was no jealousy towards Ray Lewis with the other players, thinking he's a big blowhard, he's this, that. And, he was certainly the greatest leader. Was he the most popular player? You could argue with fans, maybe Lamar Jackson, because he's a little more glitzy, could be a little more popular because he played the quarterback position.
That's a great point. And, Ray Lewis is already done, right? Ray Lewis has already got his Pro Bowls. He's already in the Hall of Fame. Lamar Jackson, we don't know yet. I mean,
Lamar Jackson,
it looks like he could. He looks like he has the things that can happen. But suppose, Jack, he never gets to a Super Bowl. Does he get in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, he'll get in the Hall of Fame, absolutely. I mean, a couple MVPs, all-time leading rusher for quarterback. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. Will he be regarded as an all-time great quarterback? Without the Super Bowl, no, not quite. Okay, not quite. I think every quarterback who doesn't win a Super Bowl, you have to then compare him to Dan Marino. And you can never put him ahead of Dan Marino because as great as Lamar Jackson is, Dan Marino's a little better. And so Dan Marino's the greatest non-Super Bowl winning quarterback of all time. But when you compare Dan Marino with the all-time greats, even though you could make an argument he was better than anyone who played the position, I'm just saying you can make an argument. I'm not saying that's the case. He's not going to ever be rated, ahead of Brady, Peyton Manning, Mahomes. They're always going to be rated ahead of him because they won Super Bowls. And it'll be the same with Josh Allen, too. If he doesn't win a Super Bowl, he'll maybe fall into the Dan Marino category. when you rate him. Maybe a top 10 quarterback of all time, but, the lower half of the top 10 at most.
Yes, great points. Great points for that. So since you bring up Josh Allen, let's get to Josh Allen. Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks right now that is competing against. He's competing in the AFC. He's competing against Patrick Mahomes for who's the better quarterback, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrows. I think he's right there. And I think there's something to be said when a quarterback beats, and I shouldn't say beats because, of course, he doesn't play against him, but leads his team. And we got J-Train coming in late. Should I let him on, Jack? I think I should let J-Train on.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course.
Okay, all right. I'll let J-Train on once he gets straightened out underneath. Okay, let's bring him up. Let's get his opinion on the most popular Raven before.
We're not backtracking, Mac. Okay, come on, let's continue what we're talking about.
Well, I want to hear who you thought real quick. I don't want to hear the whole thing, but who did you think was the most popular Baltimore
Raven? Ray Lewis.
All right, so there you go. So he agreed with you, Jack, for all the reasons you said. I said Lamar Jackson. So right now we're talking about Josh Allen.
Who'd you say?
Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So we're pushing on to Josh Allen. And as I was telling Jack, there's 4 quarterbacks in the AFC right now, and only one of them has ever led their team over the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and that's Joe Burrow. And everybody gives, even though he lost the Super Bowl, everybody gives him credit. Oh, he beat Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen in the playoffs has never done that yet. So now they're coming up to the championship game, and neither has Lamar Jackson, by the way. But now they're coming up to the championship game. Is Josh Allen winning this championship, not even if he wins the Super Bowl, just winning this championship, would this be as important to him, to his legacy, as going to the Super Bowl? And say he wasn't playing the Chiefs. Just say he went to the Super Bowl and won it. Is it as important as beating the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes? What do you think, Jack?
I'm going to say no. Why? Had it been him playing for another team, I would say yes. But he's playing for the Buffalo Bills. Why? Because they've been to 4 Super Bowls. I think because of the legacy of the history of this city, the history of the team, the organization, the 4 Super Bowls they've been to and have not won a game, I would say it's more important to win that game, to win the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter who they're playing. I think they've won 4 AFC championships already in their history as an organization. So, I mean, the biggest game for them is the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. Patrick Mahomes winning, yes. Winning against him, obviously, you want to do that. I mean, he like you said, nobody has gotten over the whole big hump during the reign of Patrick Mahomes. He's like Michael Jordan. I would say, yeah, it would be like the Knicks in '92 trying to get over with Patrick Ewing trying to get over the hump of Michael Jordan, and they never have. Nobody's gotten over that rank. But it doesn't matter. I would say I think the Super Bowl, because of the team that he's playing for, and it's a team effort, and because of them being haunted by not winning not one of those Super Bowls, I think the Super Bowl is the more important game.
Well, Jack, the Bengals lost 2 Super Bowls too before they went and lost again to the Rams. So, I mean, it's not like the Bengals have won their Super Bowls before either. So you could make that argument for Joe Burrow too. But the problem is Patrick Mahomes. Maybe the greatest quarterback, maybe will be the greatest quarterback in NFL history. He's got a long way to go to catch Brady. But what are your thoughts, Jack?
Yeah, I don't go for that, the number of Super Bowls and this and that. No one is going to go to 10 Super Bowls. The Chiefs aren't going to 10 Super Bowls. It's, even if they go this year, will be the 5th under Mahomes. It's far more likely that they never go to another Super Bowl than they go to 5 more. I mean, 5 more. It's out of the question. Let's put it that way. So he's never going to match the number. but it's extra big for Patrick Mahomes this year because he'll have a chance to do something he'll never get an opportunity to do again. If they three-peat and he wins 3 in a row, that's going to be legendary. Even if he never wins another game, people are always going to point to that. He's always going to be distinguished with that particular accomplishment. I agree with James. Josh Allen, he's played well against the Kansas City Chiefs in the losses, unlike Lamar Jackson, even though the last game Lamar Jackson played okay. He played okay in the last game, but he played poorly the game before that last year in the AFC Championship game. So there's a difference involved. We know when a quarterback is playing well and he comes a little short. I don't think the blame goes on him. But eventually, at some point, you got to win that Super Bowl to be considered like an immortal. And from where Josh Allen is located in Buffalo, that's a different type of franchise. Winning a Super Bowl in Buffalo means a lot more than winning it in LA. Okay, Matthew Stafford wins it with the Rams, but it's not a tight-knit community. But if Josh Allen could win one in Buffalo, they said the same thing about Aaron Rodgers when he came to the Jets. He's never going to win multiple Super Bowls to be compared to Tom Brady. But imagine if Rodgers came and he won one with the Jets in his first year. That would have been off the rails. So even though it would have only been 2 Super Bowls in his career, that one Super Bowl with the Jets would have been worth about 3 Super Bowls elsewhere. And that's what you think about with Josh Allen with the Bills. I mean, what happens if he plays great and they beat the Chiefs and he's just so-so in the Super Bowl and they lose? What are they going to say? He still has unfinished business. So,
Yeah.
and let's say he beats the Chiefs and he plays great against the Eagles or the Commanders, but they lose that game. You got to get over the top at some point, even though oftentimes it's not the quarterback's fault. And the only reason they're in this position is Josh Allen. You could argue that Josh Allen has been the best quarterback in the NFL this year. You could easily argue that. And you could argue that he's the best quarterback in football at the current time. But, you kind of have to finish the job, not just beat the Chiefs or win the Super Bowl.
Well, you brought an interesting point up, the three-peat. I mean, if you think about, was it the Giants stopping that perfect season in the Super Bowl? Suppose they didn't meet in the Super Bowl. Suppose the last game of the season they beat them. That would have been huge. So Kansas City's going to do something that will be legendary. Well, Josh Allen, the Bills are a team that can stop that. And I think just that alone, not even counting that he knocks off the Chiefs and maybe the best quarterback of this generation, but he stops the Kansas City Chiefs. Him and the Buffalo Bills stop the Kansas City Chiefs from three-peating. It's pretty significant.
It would have been, Mac, there's history. The Miami Dolphins won 2 Super Bowls in a row. They were going for their third one. They had the unbeaten season. Then they won the Super Bowl the year after that. They were a better team. The team that lost a couple of games and the team that was unbeaten. The team that was unbeaten, I wouldn't even put them as, a top 10 team of all time, but that's up for debate. I'd have to analyze that a little more. But the team that repeated was truly powerful. And then they tried to three-peat, and they lost that thrilling game to the Raiders in the playoffs, and Kenny Stabler was falling down, and the Raiders had an exceptional team. Kenny Stabler was an exceptional quarterback. But then in the AFC Championship game, the Raiders came out flat. They lost to the Steelers. And how do we look at that Raider team? It's like, who cares? We remember the great game where they beat the Dolphins, but we don't rate that Raider team, on any type of list because they did lose to the Steelers. And that's just what it is.
Nobody remembers number 3. Nobody remembers number 2. Those, as great a game as you mentioning that the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Bills would be, because what's at stake at them going. What if they don't even get to? Even if they win this game, even if the Chiefs win this game, what if they don't win the Super Bowl? What if they don't three-peat? So nobody's even going to remember what the Bills did. It's just not even significant. I think the most significant is the pinnacle, is getting to the Super Bowl and winning that and hoisting the Lombardi Trophy again in the Bills' history, which they've never done. They've watched somebody else do it 4 straight times, and I think that's very devastating to that Bills Mafia, to organization, to the former players who played during that time. I think everybody's looking to see this team get over the hump and win everything. If they do that, like Jack said, I mean, that one time you hoist a trophy, I mean, it's going to make, I mean, he's going to be the king of that city if Josh Allen wins that trophy. I mean, he'll be the greatest thing since sliced bread there, which he's great now. He's a great player now. He's MVP almost. And so, but it's nothing if he doesn't win the Super Bowl.
Especially in Buffalo, it's not like another city. Bills win the Super Bowl, they can go 7-10 the next 4 years, and Josh Allen is going to still be a hero to them. They're going to love Josh Allen. Another city, they go 7-10 1 year, the fans start having discontent. Let's get rid of them. They start booing. Fans in Buffalo are truly unique. But
Yes.
I want to say one thing about repeating. I've said it before. The Chiefs technically would be making history, but in reality, no. The Green Bay Packers, they won the NFL championship, and then the Super Bowl started, and they won it the first 2 years. So the Packers in reality won it 3 years in a row. It just wasn't called the Super Bowl the first year that they won it. That's the only difference involved.
Well, I mean, listen, I understand you win the Super Bowl, you're the king of the castle, but it's got to start somewhere, right? The Bills haven't even won a championship since what, the 90s.
93.
So I mean, and you talk about the Bills Mafia. The Bills Mafia love the Bills. Win, lose, miss the field goal, they'll the standing ovation. They're giving $95,000 to the tight end for the Baltimore Ravens because his charity, because they feel bad for the guy. I mean, this is a unique fan base.
Yeah.
So first you got to beat the Chiefs before you get to the Super Bowl. And I just think that maybe, of course, winning a Super Bowl is huge, right? You're the king of the mountain. But I still think for Josh Allen, personally, I think he goes home if they beat the Chiefs. And this dude is on seventh heaven. He finally did it. He finally got back by the great Patrick Mahomes. And I think he'd be.
But he's got to regroup. He's got to regroup and get ready for the Super Bowl. If they come up flat in the Super Bowl, it's tarnished. It's not good enough. Tom Coughlin, he tried to motivate the Giants before they played in the Super Bowl, and he started giving them a quiz, the players, the losing teams in the Super Bowl. And it's so easy to forget who lost to who. I mean, when the Pittsburgh Steelers won their first Super Bowl, I think it was under Bill Cowher. People don't remember. It was the Seattle Seahawks that lost to them.
No.
I mean, a lot of years you don't remember the Super Bowl losing team. You remember the teams that won it, and then you start straining your brain, unless it's a high-profile team. Wow, who did they beat? I mean, now I'm thinking to myself, the one Super Bowl the Packers won with Aaron Rodgers. Oh, yeah, they beat the Steelers. You don't remember this much. You just don't. Unless it's a classic game. If it's a great game, a classic game, you could recall it. But, you could go back years and, I could say the Dallas Cowboys, when they won their Super Bowls under Tom Landry, it's not the easiest. It's not always the easiest thing to remember. I can recall it, that they beat the Dolphins and they beat the Broncos, but a lot of people won't recall, who lost this Super Bowl games.
And Matt, you go back to like the 2000s when Andy Reid had the Eagles, on top of their game with Donovan McNabb, but it took them a while to get over the hump to get to the championship, and they still lost to the Patriots. The one game they finally did, and I'm pretty sure nobody remembers those games who they were losing to. I mean, I can because I'm just a football junkie and nut, but most people aren't going to remember, who they played. I mean, and who beat them to stop them from getting there, what those games were like. We're talking about the Rams, the Panthers. These are games that these people, and none of these people win. Rams won, but the Panthers went, played the Patriots and lost in the Super Bowl, and then of course finally the Eagles get there and then they lose. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, all those teams got there over the Eagles, before they got to the championship, and then their last one and lost.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. So let's get to the next one. Aaron Glenn, new head coach of the Jets. He's getting his offensive coordinator. I mean, he's working. He's working the phones, and he's trying to get his staff together. And he's got a quarterback sitting there that has won a couple MVPs and a Super Bowl, a little older than maybe he would like, but he's got Aaron Rodgers sitting there. Do you think that Aaron Glenn should keep Aaron Rodgers? What do you think, Jack?
I don't know. I mean, that's something he has to feel comfortable with. And no one can say to him that they have to.
I'm asking your opinion. I don't care about what he feels.
My opinion of he should look at all his options, okay, very carefully. And if he looks at all his options on the free agent market in the draft, he's not going to get the. I doubt that Shedeur Sanders is going to fall to the Jets, but it's possible Shedeur Sanders will fall to the Jets. It's possible, partly because Deion Sanders has a big personality. It could turn a couple of teams off. And Cam Ward's probably going to be drafted ahead of Shedeur Sanders. And then Abdul Carter's a monster. Travis Hunter's a great player. Teams who need a quarterback might take them. And, and believe it or not, Shedeur Sanders might go at number 7. And then I think the Jets should take him. But assuming they can't get him at number 7, what's out there? They're not going to have a reunion with Sam Darnold. Please don't. That's not going to work for the Jets. It really won't. Justin Fields is a possibility. I've never been that high on him, but I also understand he could be a decent quarterback, developed right, So I'm not sure. So you either go with Justin Fields or Aaron Rodgers. Maybe in the 3rd round, you draft a Quinn Ewers if he's there and see whether he develops. But in the short term, it would seem like Aaron Rodgers would be your best bet, but it's only for 1 year, the short term. And I'm not going to let Aaron Rodgers control the narrative, come in, say this and that. And I don't mean this in a bad way, because Aaron Rodgers is going to want to be involved, certain receivers. I would let Aaron Rodgers know Garrett Wilson is the number 1 receiver. Devontae Adams is great. I know that, okay? But Garrett Wilson is our future here with the team. And I would let Garrett Wilson know that. Yeah, he's 1. Devontae Adams is 1A. That's how it's got to work next season. But how, do you want that hassle with Aaron Rodgers to work things out, even though I trust that Aaron Rodgers would try to be cooperative? Aaron Rodgers keeps saying, I'm not sure whether I'm going to play. You want someone who you're going to have a future with. So to me, the answer is no with Aaron Rodgers. I would go with Justin Fields. I would develop him. If it doesn't work out with Justin Fields, the next season you see whatever. But Justin Fields showed he can play. He's not going to be a bust. He might be very average, not what you're looking for. But I would roll with Justin Fields, and I think the Jets could sign him because teams aren't lined up for Justin Fields, and Justin Fields would come to the Jets if he knew he was going to start. But once you start him, you can't have him and Aaron Rodgers on the same team. None of this talk competing for the starting position, even though that would shake things up with the media, Rodgers and Fields competing. But why would Fields want to come to the Jets? You don't have Aaron Rodgers compete for the job. You either give it to him or let him know he can move on. That would be a good swap, even though they're both Justin Fields is a free agent. Fields for Rodgers. Rodgers would be better for the Steelers than Fields would be, a Russell Wilson, I think. And I think Fields would be better for the Jets than Rodgers at the current time.
Interesting. What do you think, James?
I think the opposite. I think that Aaron Glenn was no nonsense, and he has some ties to the Jets. He was drafted by them. So I think that alone allows him some leeway. It gives him a little more power, a little more control in a sense as a head coach, even against the powerful and almighty Aaron Rodgers. And I think the reason why they bring a guy in like this is that they have a little more leverage here because they have Aaron Rodgers is on the books for $38 million, but it's not guaranteed. It's $3 million in salary and $35 in bonus that they have to adjust or take care of prior to the I forgot the season starting, and if they want to get rid of him. I don't think they want to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers put up 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and he has a little bit of rapport with the guy like Devontae Adams. And I think there's maybe some growth development between him and Garrett Wilson. I think Aaron Glenn is the guy right there that can be the glue. Look, he have a sit down and have a conversation with Aaron Rodgers and then say, look, this is what we're going to do. If you're going to play, if you're going to be here. Aaron Rodgers has always done that.
Wait a minute, James. Wait a minute, James. How many wins did the Jets have last year?
Not many at all.
Well, how many?
What, 3? I think 4.
No, 5. There were 5 and
5
2.
wins with all those great stats that Aaron Rodgers had with his great Devontae Adams there, his buddy, with all the people he brought with him, with the coach he brought with him. He won 5 games. What are we talking about Aaron Rodgers like he did?
He didn't play well. His numbers, James, you're deceived by his numbers.
No. I trust me. I saw the game, and I picked them at the beginning of the season, win that division, and I was totally disappointed with Aaron Rodgers specifically and that team. I'm not shying away from none of that. I'm just saying, I think that he still has the ability, is all I'm saying, to be able to do things. But the games I saw them lose. I saw them, have a lot of toxicity in that locker room. I think
no, they didn't. There was no evidence that there was any poison in the locker room.
Oh my goodness! There's gotta be if they're not putting it on the field.
You're assuming it's gotta
They're not going to tell you that. The evidence on the field.
One player. You haven't heard a reporter come up with one player who said anything negative, even anonymously. Players were not ripping Aaron Rodgers, even anonymously. My
problem with that answer is, why are you not winning with that much talent on that team? There's got to be something. Look at the Eagles last year.
Yeah, that's what the Eagles are totally down to.
It takes leadership, Jack. When the Eagles were totally out of whack, and they got a new offensive coordinator, and they got a running back. I think the same thing here is similar. I think the leadership wasn't great. There wasn't no response between the leader of the offense and the leader, the head coach, and they got rid of one. And then there was no real good leadership after that. I think Aaron Glenn comes in here and lays the gauntlet down. And this is what it's going to be. And we're going to get this done, or the highway. You can take the highway, because I think, look, he's got, like I said, he'll cost them $49 million in dead money if they let him go. But Sean Payton let Russell Wilson go, and look how they did when they got a quarterback. But I don't think you have a quarterback that and this is not this coach is not really a quarterback whisperer. So I mean, I don't know if he's going to manage.
You got to get someone who's going to play quarterback, James. That's
say it again.
Someone has got to play quarterback.
Exactly.
I'm on the fence.
Who do you have that's going to replace Aaron Rodgers that's out there right now?
Who? Justin Fields is the only one. I'm not high on Justin Fields. Don't get me wrong. He's the most viable candidate. I don't want to know from Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold could have a good year for the Vikings again. I'm not selling him short as far as that goes. I thought he'd have a really good year this year, and that prediction, came true. But he's the most viable guy out there who they could probably get, unless they could draft Shedeur Sanders, okay, which is questionable whether he would be available at number 7. That's all I'm saying. I'm not crazy about Justin Fields. The Bears made the right move moving on from Justin Fields. People were arguing. Justin Fields has been in the league 4 years. He couldn't beat out Russell Wilson at the end of the day. So.
And what about your offensive line? What about your offense? I think isn't that not part of the problem as well?
And that's why Jack's idea to get Justin Fields is not a bad one.
He's I mean, look at the same. You're going to put that guy that has a problem with offensive line in Chicago. What do you do in Chicago with a bad offensive line?
Well, I think they won like 6 out of the last 7 games, and he ran for almost 1,000 yards, and he threw for quite a bit. I mean,
that wasn't impressive, Matt.
Well, I'm just saying.
If he did what you said he did,
I remember that their record was better than it was with Caleb Williams. Beside the point, all I'm saying is Justin Fields gives the Jets RPO, something that Rodgers couldn't do. He can run with the ball for sure. He's got a big arm. He may not be as accurate as Rodgers, who threw for 11 interceptions, was not that great either. But he's got a big arm. He can go deep to Wilson. He can go deep to Devontae Adams. I'm just saying that's not as far-fetched as you think. I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm not saying it's the best idea. I'm saying it's not a bad idea because if you look at the pool, what do you got out there? Russell Wilson? He's going to be a free agent. Do you want Russell Wilson with the Jets? Do you want Derek Carr with the Jets? I mean, who else are you going to take if you're going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers?
Tyrod Taylor came down to that.
Well, there you go.
All
those answers is why you try to make it work with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you got to make it work with him because there's.
Let me tell you what my beef is with Aaron Rodgers. Okay, here he keeps talking about retiring. He doesn't know whether he's going to play or not. I don't like that. If he had an attitude, no, I want to come back. I want to be the quarterback. I have no plans on retiring. I can play the next few years. That's a difference maker in my attitude. Why I say why I want them to go to Justin Fields because he's talking.
Jack, he's always done that. You know what you were getting when you got him.
Going for that. If I'm Aaron Glenn, I said, look, you got to give me a commitment that you're here indefinitely. You're not here for 1 year. That I could count on you as long as need be, as long as you could play well. It might be years. You're going to be here. But if you're not sure whether you're coming back next year, if you think next year, well, I think it's going to be my last year, I'd rather move on. I'd rather start planning now. I would sit him down if that's Aaron Glenn's guy. Reportedly, Aaron Glenn a year ago or something was talking highly of Aaron Rodgers, like how well he could play and this and that. And you have to consider these guys like Aaron Glenn. They played and they coached when Aaron Rodgers was coming up. So to them, this is the legendary Aaron Rodgers, and they feel, well, whatever's left could be better than what someone else could have to offer.
This is what I think is going to happen. I think what you're saying, they're going to sit down and talk with each other. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to, go through his whole rigmarole of what he always does, what he's done with the Packers and what he's going to do this year. Figure out his life, go sit in the dark, go to Egypt, go somewhere, and come back and play. And he's going to come back and play for the Jets. And I think Aaron Rodgers will be the guy a little bit better than Saleh to actually keep this dude in check. And I think that's about as good as he can get with him, because I think ultimately I think they still draft a quarterback. They may not draft one in the first round. They may draft. I think you probably should get an offensive lineman in the first round, another one. And I think Will Campbell is a good option coming out of LSU. Yeah. So if you get that guy, he's like, look, I'm not being a homer here. He is the number one rated.
No,
he's the number one rated lineman.
I'm just thinking about Becton, how he sucked with the Jets and ended up going over and playing with the Eagles, and he's having an all-pro year. That's all. I know the offensive line.
They struck gold with Olu Fashanu. They struck gold with him. I think he's going to be really good. So I think you can get another guy. Maybe you can move him in on the inside as guard. You need more protection on that line. You do. And I think in the run game as well, they need good run blockers, man. You got stars on that team, and I think they're being held back a little bit by their offensive line. But I think Aaron Rodgers comes back, and I think they still draft a quarterback maybe in the second, third, or fourth round for their future.
Okay. All right. There you go. Jack, anything else?
Well, it's easy to just say draft a quarterback, but you can wait. They did it last year in the 5th round. Jordan Travis from Florida. He's been injured, and it looks like a wasted draft pick at the end. You never know, but when nothing's happened at all the first year and there's been no movement, it's not like a case where he's gotten into a couple of games and showed you a little something, and he's going to go into next season either the 3rd string quarterback, Jordan Travis, or he's going to be on the practice squad. Chances are he's going to be on the practice squad. And once you take a step back and your quarterback like that, it shows you, the ultimate potential.
And this
will be on the lookout for guys like Jackson Dart, the guy. I think he. Oh, goodness.
But you can't count on these guys. You could draft a quarterback in the 4th round, and you can hope for the best. So, maybe he develops, maybe he turns out to be good, but you can't count on these guys. A 1st-round draft pick, you're counting on to be really good. It might not happen, of course, but you're at least counting on the guy. You're putting your hopes on him, and then if he fails, you're failing as a team. It's a gamble. But it's a gamble worth taking based on his pedigree. You wait till late in the draft, you hope. Like even a Quinn Ewers, you can't count on him, but you could draft him in the 3rd round and say, you want to know something? He'll be a backup. Maybe he could be a good quarterback. You put it under the maybe.
I'll tell you, Jack, they will probably draft 6 quarterbacks in the 1st round if they act like they've always been. They always reach, man. Every team reaches for that quarterback. And this is probably, well, not probably. I think this quarterback class is terrible. And you got the Giants and the Jets both sitting there and didn't draft the quarterback last year for some reason. And they could have been all set right now. I mean, they could have been ready to roll, but they decided that, we'll wait another year. I don't understand that. Ichiro Suzuki doesn't get 100%. Now, the guy was a legitimate Hall of Famer, probably should have got in and probably should have got 100%. Of course, we can go back and say Babe Ruth didn't get 100%. But the question here is the voters do not have to come forward and say who they voted for. And, of course, this has been a debate for a long time. If you're voting for a Hall of Fame, whether it's baseball, football, whatever sport it is, should you be required to come forward and give your name and say who you voted for? What do you think, James?
I think no. I don't think you should. My reasoning is just that look, the fan base can be fickle. Everybody out there, I mean, people give death threats and everything else. I mean, you just would be unreal for what you can have come towards you because of your decision. I mean, don't get me wrong. Doesn't make any sense that Suzuki Ichiro was not 100%. No. I mean, he probably should have been 100%, but there's no, if you, for whatever reason, you decide not to vote somebody in, unanimous. I always wonder about some of these things. If I'm a voter, look, if this is my decision, I'd rather keep it anonymous, and I wouldn't want to tell anybody what's going on because you don't know. I mean, ultimately, your decision could be something that's detrimental to your life or something because of people out there. You don't know who you're walking around and what they're thinking, who knows you, anything like that. No, I would rather keep that anonymous. There's no way. I mean, that's the main reason for me why I would rather keep it anonymous. I mean, even if it is stupid for for the person voting, but I think livelihood and safety matters first.
So, Jack, Ichiro, he'd love to sit down and talk to the guy that didn't vote for him if he knew who he was. What are your thoughts on this?
It's not logical at all not to vote for him. I mean, what is the reason? I mean, you could make a case for anything. I can understand that. Same thing happened with Derek Jeter. And let's say I was representing the guy who didn't vote for Derek Jeter. I would tell him to say, Derek Jeter's absolutely a Hall of Famer, but I don't think he's an immortal Hall of Famer like a first ballot like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. So I was going to wait to the second year to vote for Derek Jeter. You know, I can kind of, that's the argument I would make if I'm representing a guy. Technically speaking, if people are on a ballot, you have a right to vote for whoever you want on the ballot. We can't bully someone to say, no, you got to vote for him over the other guys on the ballot. You can't do it. But should it be made public? Should someone have to take accountability for their vote? They're concerned they might get harassed. Well, look at the sport of boxing. They announce who the judges are before the fight. I mean, they're under more scrutiny. I mean, their decision is much more impactful than anything in baseball. I vote for the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I get my ballot, I vote. No one knows who I vote for. And do I keep it to myself? You know, I could if I want. If someone asks me, chances are I'm going to tell them who I vote for. Sometimes if I'm going to get annoyed by people who have a movement for a certain guy getting in, I might just laugh it off. I might not want to tell them I didn't vote for their guy because I'm not in the mood to debate them because I know who I want to vote for, the reasons. And there's one guy in particular, a very nice guy. One of his relatives is on the ballot, and every year he advocates for it. And I don't want to get into a discussion with him about it because the discussion, he won't allow the discussion to ever end. He'll go on and on and on until I basically say, yeah, 100% he belongs in. I'm going to tell everyone now, get out of here, you know? And I don't want to do that. I'd be lying to the guy, you know?
Right.
So, I voted when they had the Las Vegas Boxing Hall of Fame. And it was an internal thing, the voting with the committee members. So I got to see with the Las Vegas Boxing Hall of Fame how the other guys voted. And it was boxers outside of Las Vegas worldwide when they started it. One guy did not vote for Sugar Ray Robinson when it initially started the Hall of Fame. And I thought this guy's a complete idiot. What's he doing? It made like no sense, the guys he voted for over Sugar Ray Robinson. And then I told myself he has a right to do it. Their names are there on the ballot. You have a right to vote for whoever you want on the ballot. Maybe we're going about things the wrong way. Maybe they should get a group of 20 of the best sports writers, most knowledgeable, get them in a room over a weekend, let them go back and forth and come to a consensus, the way a jury does, but at the end of the day, who cares if one guy didn't vote for Ichiro? He gets in. I don't want to hear about unanimous choices that becoming popular now because Babe Ruth will never be a unanimous choice. Willie Mays is never going to be one. So who gives a darn whether one, guy who's trying to create a buzz by not voting for Ichiro, it's probably the same guy that didn't vote for Jeter. And whoever's the most obvious candidate, he won't vote. But what's going to happen? LeBron James is eligible for the Hall of Fame. What are we going to say if a guy doesn't vote for him the first year he's eligible, right? I mean, come on.
But do you think it should be public, the voters?
If it's going to be made public, I think the voters should be told beforehand the new policy. Do you still want to vote? Do you still want to vote? Because some of them might not want to under that condition. It's made in boxing, though. Like I said, the 3 judges in boxing. Think of what they might have to go through. They score fight a certain way.
But I think that's different. I think that's different because they're judging a fight, not a permanent legacy. Those are 2 different things. This is something, a fight, yes, that makes a difference.
You see them on the ring apron. You can't avoid it. They're sitting close. People are going to find out who they are anyway. Yeah.
No
right.
doubt.
So, somebody who's permanently going to be, their legacy ultimately is decided on someone's vote. I think that's a whole different thing.
If you're that worried about it, then don't be a voter. If you're that worried that somebody's going to stalk you and kill you or whatever, then don't be a voter. Say, I refuse. I'm not voting for anybody. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And wouldn't a person who votes against, say, Ichiro, wouldn't it be smart for him to come forward and say, I'm the one that didn't do that? Wouldn't he get a lot of hits on his Instagram? I mean, wouldn't he become popular? Wouldn't this guy be like,
explanation.
Go ahead,
Mac, I think he's entitled to vote for who he wants, but I think there should be a Hall of Fame committee who speaks to the guy, not necessarily reprimands him, saying, we just want to know your reasoning, why you voted the way you did, okay? And maybe every voter should be asked why he voted the way he did, but the guy who left Ichiro out, an explanation why the other guys belong to head of Ichiro. Now, if I was going to make an argument, I could actually not vote for Ichiro. I might say I only thought 3 guys belonged in, and I voted for A-Rod. I could say I thought he's better than Ichiro. You know, people forget that. I could say I voted for Billy Wagner. I thought as a closer, he's more valuable than a right fielder, and his time on the ballot was running out. So I thought an urgency to get him in. And then I could say I voted for Andrew Jones. I think he was one of the top 3 defensive center fielders in baseball history. I could make that argument where it would actually make a semblance of sense, you know, even though at the end of the day, how can you not vote for Ichiro? And I could back up my argument that way, and I could diffuse the situation. Imagine that. I voted for A-Rod over Ichiro because he had a greater career. How do you like that?
You could say that. You could say it. I mean, you know, PEDs is why he's not in, but you could say that. You can vote for him even though he did PEDs. That's your
Manny
vote.
Ramirez. I could say he was a greater player than Ichiro. I don't think he was, but it's arguable. You know, and I could get away with not voting for him that way. Maybe that's what the voter did. Maybe he voted for, you know, A-Rod, Ramirez, and then his argument was Billy Wagner's eligibility is about to run out. And all of a sudden, the guy's making a semblance of sense, even though I still disagree with what he did.
Yeah, maybe he diffuses the situation somewhat, definitely. I mean,
yeah.
that makes sense. So, I get James' point. I mean, fans are crazy. I mean, you do have stalkers. I remember when a brother killed another brother of the Boston Red Sox Yankee game because one was a Yankee fan and the other was a Red Sox game. I mean, people are weird, right? There are some strange people out there that really take this stuff too seriously. You know, anything. I mean, Pelosi's husband got attacked. I mean, you know, there are crazy people.
Related.
I know, but I'm just saying, if they want to get to you, Jack, if somebody wants to get to you, I mean, they can get to you. There's ways to do that. And, you know, but that is very few and far in between. Jack, I love your argument. Why not diffuse it? Why not say why you didn't? Why not say this is why I didn't vote for him? And maybe some people will understand, right? I mean, that does make a lot of sense. So some football updates here. The Dallas Cowboys did hire their offensive coordinator. That was the offensive coordinator last year. A lot of Dallas fans are upset with it because of all the different head coaches that were out there that they could have maybe gone and made a play for. I know there was talk of the new coach of the Raiders, Chuck the Gum Chewer. Thank you. There was even a thing going on that Pete Carroll actually called Jerry Jones. I don't know if it's true or not, but I imagine there were phone calls going back and forth. Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator last year, as Jack said earlier. He didn't call the plays, you know. So, what do you guys think? I mean, is this another move of Jerry controlling the narrative, controlling the coach? I mean, does Dallas get better next year under Schottenheimer?
James.
I have no idea. I don't know what's going on in that circus, and I almost don't want to know. I mean, I think that Schottenheimer is a strange move. it's within the circle. I mean, look at all the moves that Jerry's been making lately. He's paying these players the amount of money they want to get paid, which ultimately he had to, but not getting the running back he needed at the time, and you're not sure of his decision making right now and what's going on. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we're talking about, God forbid, a situation like Biden. I mean, you don't know is he inept in his decision making, or there's some questionable moves and things that he hadn't seen early on throughout his career. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. You say he wasn't called into plays. It was Mike McCarthy.
No, but he's a good football man, a ton of coaching experience. I'm not hype about this. Fans want a glamorous name. Oh, Jerry Jones should have maybe rated, college, gotten one of the big-time college coaches. You get Pete Carroll.
I'm not sold either on that.
Who wants to see Pete Carroll's antics on the sidelines and so on? Pete Carroll's a Hall of Fame coach, don't get me wrong. But, Brian Schottenheim has been with the Cowboys. He knows the personnel, okay? So he knows exactly what he's getting into, and it's a continuation, as far as things go. And I don't mean that sarcastically because they were only 7-10 last year, but he's not a bad hire. It's not like he dug up some special teams coach from another team that didn't have success. It's the players that Jerry Jones gets. That's going to be the difference maker. They're going to have to make some moves, in the off season that they didn't do last year. And I don't think, the coach, any coach is going to elevate the Cowboy team the way they are now if they don't make any moves.
I agree with you, Mac. I think this is just some sense of control. He's going to have control. I don't know if there weren't many big names out there. He wouldn't want a guy like Pete Carroll coming in because obviously, but at the same time, Pete Carroll's 73. I don't know. I'm still questioning what the Raiders are going to do with him there. And if there's how he's going to relate to the player. He's always been a player's coach, but at the same time, is he going to relate as a grandpa? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like he's 73, but he's going to be 74 when the season starts. So I don't know.
They call him Pops.
Yes,
exactly. You know what I think it is? There was a huge thing about prime time coming and coaching with the Cowboys too. That went on for months, right? He might be coming. He might, and I think the expectation.
Well, not a month. There was a quick buzz. Deion Sanders wasn't going to go to it was highly doubtful. It was tempting to Deion when he first heard it. Wow, I get to coach the Cowboys, my old team, and he likes Jerry Jones, but he has such a great deal at Colorado. They love him there.
I agree.
It wouldn't have made any sense.
Hey, Jack, I'm not disagreeing. I'm thinking the Cowboy fans were thinking Deion was coming. I really do, and I think that's kind of threw some water on this too. One last thing before we go. Robert Salah is back with the 49ers as defensive coordinator. He left to go coach for the Jets. He was spoken about being a possible head coach in a couple places too. Maybe he gets another shot at coaching. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just a great defensive coordinator or a very good defensive coordinator for the 49ers. Their defense should improve next year, I would think.
And he's back home where he was before as the defensive coach of the Niners. It says a lot about the job he did with them originally, that they want him back and they held the job for him till it became clear he wasn't going to get a head coaching, job this year. So good for Robert Salah, and it's good for the 49ers.
Yeah, their defense will be back up in the top 5, somewhere around there because of just who he is and then what he does for the defense.
Did wonders for the Jets when he first got there. And, when they fired him, Jets defense kind of went down a little bit. So, folks, thanks for joining us. We're at the top of the hour. This is the Mac, Jack, and James debate show. We'll be back at you next week. Up after us, I think, is Keith Angle with the College Sports Huddle. So check it out, and we shall see you tomorrow for the big football show. Have a good one.